into a twisted rather than just being a twisted.
Write that down, Vanna. Whoa, write that down. You are not putting a sponsor. You put a sponsor. Yeah. I think it's about time. I have been documenting my progress on my Danny's World adventure. So instead of me having to guess, what's going on, who are the characters, and then getting confused and getting the entire community screaming at me in the comments section, I think that it's time for me to really figure out what is going on? Who better way to tell me than the game theorists? The lore of Danny's World explained, yes, finally. All right, hit me with your best shot. Let's go.
Is at it again. Move over doors. There's a new horror game in town that's taking the internet and our subreddit by storm, and its name is Dandy's World.
Dandy's World.
Don't trust that smile for a minute, friends,
I can't.
because
I
behind
won't.
it is a sad and broken character.
Tell me.
Who ruined the lives of his friends, his creators, and the very studio we're exploring.
Okay, hit me with it. Hit me with
Internet. Welcome to Game Theory,
logo.
the show that just can't get enough black goo. Think about it. Bendy,
hello?
Doors,
Yeah,
Welcome
true.
Home, Bob Mod, FNAF, all of them.
What is... Okay, I need to know what that is. Keep going.
A black, goopy thing that leads to one thing. Lore. We should
Lore,
probably just plug it
absolutely.
into my veins at this point. But alas,
Who are you?
HR won't let
You're
me
not
do
Matt
it.
Pat,
And
but
given
okay.
It's been a while since my last black goopy
It's been a minute since I watched Game Theorists, okay?
Blowing up with a game called Dandy's World that also had its own black goo, I was very excited to gobble up whatever sticky dark lore this thing had to offer.
Chill.
On the surface, Dandy's World is a multiplayer survival horror game on Roblox. The game itself takes place in an abandoned educational center and museum called the Garden View Center.
Garden View
As
Center.
these little creatures known as toons.
Correct.
Our job is to hop into the elevator with some friends and complete various tasks while collecting items that can be traded into the lead character Dandy to unlock even more toons to play as. But as you might expect, we're not the only things creeping around these empty halls. The deeper we go, the more we start to get a sense of what happened to this place once filled with the sounds of children's laughter and joy. What happened to this beloved place to shutter its doors, and why it has suddenly come back to life with evil versions of the toons known as Twisteds that are trying desperately to stop us, dripping with that delightful black goo.
I've learned how to play the game. Now we gotta really know it. I'm just saying. Stop it!
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Ew, stop.
Step into the elevator,
Love the editing
theorists, because we're going to get to the bottom of what's really going on in Dandy's World and its smiling rainbow flower mascot.
All right, what an intro. Let's go.
The Garden View Center actually starts with this note that you can find if you don't die to the various Twisteds chasing you around the various floors.
Really?
It's an application for a business loan dated 1984. From this, we can see that the Garden View Center...
What? Personal loan application. October 4th, 1984. Note, most of the businesses have been set up from the funds generated either from personal savings or from external financial sources. Keep it going, keep it going, keep going.
Various Twisteds chasing you around the various
Let him explain, let him cook.
For a business loan dated 1984. From this, we can see that the Garden View Center is the brainchild of two young visionaries, Henry Stein and Joey Drew. Wait,
what?
No, I meant Delilah
Okay,
Keene
I was gonna
and Arthur
say.
Walton. Although the connections between these two and
gonna
Bendy
say.
definitely keep going. Thanks to a note sketched out by Arthur, we can tell that he was the one who originally designed the look of the toons. As for Delilah, she was a bit more sus. After seeing the sketch of the lead character Dandy, she writes back to Arthur saying,
What about the others? You said he had friends, yes? I'll need them. Respond ASAP.
You
By
sound
the way,
familiar.
Out of coffee. Get more. Also ASAP.
If she's anything like me without my morning coffee, things are about to get real bad.
Same.
Even worse if she's like Santi. But despite the clearly ominous language, Arthur doesn't seem fazed, saying,
You've never failed me before, Delilah.
Then, in a recent update, the developers added these portraits of Garden View's two founders. Arthur is dressed to the nines. I tip my hat to you, sir. And Delilah is covered in black goo.
What?
Arthur, this is how it starts. And then you decide to leave.
Not me completely forgetting this was Roblox.
His partner creates an inky dimension inside their apartment, which is meant to house an inky version of you that they can torture for all eternity. It's a tale as old as time. Although this black goo is a little different to the living ink from Bendy. It's called Ichor. And not only can we find this black goo all over the place during the game, but when you get caught by a Twisted, your toon explodes into the stuff. It's almost like the Roblox PG safe version of blood. And the name certainly lends itself to that line of thinking. Ichor isn't just a made-up word. It comes from what is very quickly becoming my favorite thing to talk about about on this channel.
What?
Say it with me now.
What?
Greek mythology.
Greek mythology?
I don't know why there's so much of this in
What?
indie horror these days. Probably a theory for another day. So make sure you ink splat that subscribe button like your life depends on it.
Make sure you subscribe to Vannamelon.
Anyway, the ancient Greeks believed that
like and comment and subscribe
through their veins, the gods had a mysterious substance known as Ichor. They also believed that if a normal human were to come into contact with Ichor, they would die instantly. So that's it? Ichor is just the blood of the toons? Oh no, my friends, there is a lot more going on here. Because Ichor is also this game's form of currency. We collect more and more of this stuff as we descend further into the levels of the Garden View Center. But what do we use this precious Ichor to purchase? More toons to play as from Dandy's shop. Almost as if Ichor isn't just the blood that's coursing through them, but it's actually what is used to make the toons. And given the notes and photos we found from earlier, while Arthur was the one who originally designed the toons, it was Delilah who brought them to life using the Ichor. I guess it really is just the ink machine after all. And similarly, it has an unfortunate side effect. You see, as you play and encounter more of the twisted toons, you unlock research that gives you more lore about each character. Several of the research entries mention that it's the Ichor, and more specifically being overcome by Ichor, that turns these happy-go-lucky toons into the twisted monsters they are now. That also explains why all of the twisteds can be seen with Ichor pouring out of every orifice.
Too much
They
Ichor.
are literally so full of the stuff, it's leaking out of them. So
yeah,
then,
like blood.
If this stuff is
Good
so
design
volatile,
with that.
why make toons to begin with? As I mentioned, Arthur and Delilah get their loan in 1984, and from there, they set up the Garden View Center as a children's educational center and museum. What it was a museum of back in 1984 is unclear exactly, but based on 2 Polaroid photos dated
1988, they're settling in well, smile face. I'm so happy they're friends. Okay.
What is clear is that these characters were originally designed as a selling point for the center. Unlike other attractions, the Garden View Center didn't have just people in mascot costumes or cuddly animatronics.
No, they were real,
living, breathing
real
versions
toons
of the toons that kids could come and meet.
That's not dangerous at all, right?
Although it appears as time went on, these guys
are real,
popular beyond just the center. Despite this place looking abandoned for years, there are a bunch of posters still lining the walls that give us some interesting details. First off, they made me realize that my own office walls were somehow looking more barren than an abandoned facility. Almost as if someone had come and stolen everything before I moved in.
You are not putting a sponsor! You put a sponsor!
In every corner of the Garden View Center, there are CRTs playing a TV show full of lovable toons
and they're adorable looking.
There are also posters of the different episodes of the show, along with the dates they originally aired, hung up on the main walls of the building. This show is Dandy's World. And the earliest date we see for the show is for the episode Snowy Adventure, which aired on Christmas 1990. 2 years after the
first episode of
debut
Christmas? That's pretty daring.
existed. The Garden View characters became so popular that they eventually created a show. The show wasn't just about the many adventures of Garden View, though. If you take a look around the place, you can actually find storyboards for the show.
Wait a minute. Wait, so these living creatures also had jobs doing a live action? Technically, it's a live action to them, but a cartoon for us?
If you don't know, storyboards are essentially what TV, movies, and even gaming studios will use to plan out a sequence of events and the shots that they will need to capture or draw for any given project. Meaning that this show was actively being worked on here at the Garden View Center. This wasn't just a place where kids could come to learn and play. It was also a TV studio. And as I realized that, I couldn't help but be reminded of a certain other TV studio / theme park from the real world that was popular around the same time.
Which one?
A studio that, in itself, was also famous for its use of a slimy substance.
Nickelodeon
Studios.
What?
If
you're
right. Old
right.
enough to know what I'm talking about, I don't blame you. I'm barely old enough to remember. But when you work for TV studios like Fox and Disney, you get very familiar with the history of competing studios. Nickelodeon Studios was part of the wider Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. Much like the Garden View Center, it was both a place for kids and a working studio. Classic Nick shows like Double Dare, Legends of the Hidden Temple, and the early seasons of all that were all filmed at Nickelodeon
that's the generation right there.
Part was, people that were coming for the theme park side to keep their kids entertained could also sign up to come and see their favorite shows get made.
I really wish I could have done that.
Being in the audience to watch these shows being made live.
The Grade was produced
for Nickelodeon Studios
at
and Universal Studios
in Orlando,
That is
and of
really
course,
cool.
we can't forget about the slime.
Slime time,
and their
Nickelodeon,
patented green
dude.
slime go together like peanut butter and jam. Sorry,
Yum.
jelly. No, if Ichor is supposed to
we
be
know what you
Garden
meant.
View's version of slime, that would make Double Dare a whole lot more morbid. This idea of live studio filming is exactly what we're seeing happening in the Garden View Center. While the clips for the TV show are definitely cartoons, the characters themselves are toons, and they talk as if these events were real events that really
Something crazy happened.
For example, one of the episodes of the Dandy's World TV show was
They
called
do talk
Winning
amongst
Big,
each other.
and it features a toon named Scraps on a game
Scraps.
show, well, Winning Big, with the show
Yes,
being hosted
gambler.
by another toon, V. But despite
B.
this presumably happening on a fictional TV show, the actual V and Scraps have memories of this event. In one of the dialogues that can happen among the characters between levels, V and Scraps say this.
Hey V, you're not mad at me for winning all of your game show prizes, right? V? I'm gonna take that as a yes.
In another set of dialogue, V claims
So they're okay. So wait. So that means they're not doing a live action. They're not like in the Danny's World place and then going to the studio and recording it live. Are they being animated? And then they have memories of it? Is that what I'm getting at here?
Scraps' victory on the game show was down to pure luck. It doesn't really make much sense that V would be so salty about what happened on a TV show about her. Instead, it's more likely that she is mad because it really happened. These toons are more than just live action characters for the kids to meet.
Okay, so they're live action.
Performers that starred in the show. And those kids who were touring the center would have the chance to watch the show being recorded live. And I use the word would
never
have
mind,
very
it's the other one
specifically.
that I
The
said.
show was a massive success.
So
We
they're
know
live
that
action.
By 1990, Dandy's World was on the air and ran for over a decade. But as with all indie
2002?
horror histories,
Wow.
the winning streak couldn't last forever. The final episode of the show was planned for July 21st, 2002. But from what we can tell, it never actually made it to air because according to the city newspaper, on June 24th, 2002, the Garden View Center closed its doors.
City newspaper, Garden View Educational Center, is to shut its doors on June 29th due to recent allegations and lack of safety regulations. It's always that. It literally always is.
To the city newspaper on June 24th,
It's always that.
2002,
It
the
literally
Garden View
always
Center
is.
closed its doors. The last aired episode we know about was from 2001, which again lines up with what we saw from the Nickelodeon studios. The studio began to lay off staff that same year, 2001, and the game shows being produced there had production halted, while Nickelodeon animation continued in other locations, which is another reason why I feel like Dandy's World was being produced as a live-action production. If there was just another animated cartoon, we'd likely see remnants of the show still going on, but as it stands, the show stopped at the same time the studio did. However,
That's what I was thinking
compared to
too.
Nick Studio's closure being due to the heavy shift in animation and the increase in shows needing to be filmed in Los Angeles, Garden View's closure was a little more mysterious. According to that same newspaper, it was shut down due to a, quote, malfunction incident, which, as we all know, is indie horror corporate speak for our creation turned on us and tried to kill everyone. It's even more suspicious when the creator, Arthur, was asked to comment and chose to remain silent.
They chose
Especially
to
when behind
riot.
the scenes, he makes it abundantly clear that he knew exactly what was going on. He writes in a letter to his longtime business partner, Delilah.
Delilah, we need to talk. I know you've kept reassuring me that what had
They're always
happened
sending
wasn't
letters
due to
and
anything
notes.
you had done. You had to have known this could happen to him. If you did, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Something like this doesn't just happen.
Spicy.
Him that Arthur is referring to, the one that something happened to, the one that malfunctioned, I believe, is none other than the star
We know
of
who
the
it is,
show,
we see it.
titular flower, Dandy. Let me explain. Ever since Garden View Center closed down, several of the other toons have talked about how uneasy they feel around him. And we don't have to take their word for it. We can see it for ourselves in-game.
Oh,
in between
great.
levels, Dandy
Because he's the
pops up in
shop.
the elevator to sell you power-ups to
He
make your
turns
life easier.
huge.
But if you instead
So he's
choose
the
to
first one to
not
turn
buy
twisted,
from him,
maybe?
Dandy starts to get more and more frustrated. If you continue to ignore him, things become less fine and dandy, and he'll have a full-blown meltdown. He will turn into his twisted form, and you'd better watch out because he'll soon spawn on an upcoming level to hunt you down. Dandy is a loose cannon, ready to snap at any moment if he doesn't get his way. Based on my years of indie horror experience, my hunch is that this is what happened on the day of the malfunction.
Well, that's what I thought too.
Dandy was the first creation, Arthur's main
Sorry, I don't mean to keep
guy. But
pausing
unlike
it.
the others, we're being shown that he can
have a lot to say.
into a Twisted rather than just being a Twisted, which lines
Write
up
that
with
down,
the
write
idea
that down,
this
Vanna.
mascot malfunctioned,
Whoa,
transforming
write that down.
into a Twisted and created an incident that got the entire place shut down. And that hunch proved to be correct when I found his research data. It says, quote, the star of the show, the one who runs the Ichor operation. It's all his fault. Everything we're experiencing, the abandoned studio taken over by monsters, the studio shutting down leading to this point, it's all Dandy's fault. However, the reason for Dandy's snap isn't quite as simple as you might think. With Dandy being the primary mascot in a mascot horror game, it would be easy to just assume he's purely evil. Maybe the fame got to him. Maybe he cracked under the pressure, but eventually was overcome by the power of the Ichor and became pure
that's
evil.
easy
But
writing.
that isn't the case. There's a little bit of audio storytelling that you might have missed while playing through the game yourself. When Twisted Dandy chases you in-game, a song plays that you've no doubt heard before, but probably never knew the name of. This song is called Claire de Lune, and it's based off an 1869 poem by Paul Verlaine. A poem about someone who looks happy on the outside, but deep down is sad. Quote, playing the lute and dancing and all, but sad beneath their fantasy disguises. This song is telling us what Dandy and also his friends are. They are these picture-perfect, happy, smiling toons performing for the joy of others, but deep down, they're sad. And they're sad because of what we saw during the Christmas update last year. According to another set of
so many things.
After Christmas had passed, some of the Christmas-themed toons were doing the whole Blair Witch thing and hiding in the corner. Delilah's response was basically, Christmas is over, just throw them into storage till next year. Even though the toons are alive, they were being abused by their handlers and treated like props. Only good for the thing they were made for and nothing else.
Wait,
Behind
only
their
the Christmas
smiles were
ones?
sad and lonely creatures. Dandy's dialogue when he thinks you're ignoring him at the shop matches this.
We're friends here, right? Friend? What is happening?
He's confused.
Nice voice.
He's scared. He is terrified that he too has lived past his usefulness. That if he is no longer the star, that he and his friends face the same fate as those Christmas toons. And my guess is that's exactly what happened on that fateful day in 2001. Dandy saw how his friends were being treated. He got scared. He didn't want to be ignored, to be forgotten, to no longer be the star. And as a result, he became overcome by the Ichor and ultimately caused all the toons to be locked away forever. A self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why, as his research report says, he has restarted the
Dandy
Ichor
has restarted
project.
the Ichor
It's not
project.
because he's trying to build an army of evil toons to take over the world or to enact his revenge on those who wronged him.
That would have been boring.
He's trying to atone for his sins. He and his friends lost everything, and it's all his fault. Now he's trying to bring the show back to life. He specifically keeps asking you to find and collect and give him the VHS tapes of the show. And he's using the Ichor to create more toons. Maybe, just
Tragic
maybe,
villain?
if all the toons come back, so too will the fans, the kids, the show. And
You literally
Dandy
have it in the
can once
Roblox
again
world.
be the star he was literally born to be. But he is not the original creator. He's not Delilah. He doesn't know how to use the Ichor properly. He's using too much, and so all of his toon friends are ending up as twisted monsters.
What?
But hey, that's just a theory.
No buy?
Theory.
What? Well, that was certainly not what I expected. I mean, I didn't even think there'd be this deep of a lore. Honestly, I thought it was just very surface level. Cartoon characters were drawn, they came to life, they decided to go evil, and they try to take over the world, and you're trying to stop them. You know, like kind of like what Benny does with Peace and Love, with how Benny is written. I'm just saying, I thought it was going to be the exact same concept, right? But turns out, no, not really. Yeah, honestly, this makes me really like the game more.